All right, let's begin. Welcome everyone. We're here to present possible changes to Tualatin's code that regulates marijuana businesses. There we go. All right, so if you'd like Spanish interpretation, you can click on the globe-looking icon that's down at the bottom of the Zoom toolbar. And then you'll click on Spanish. And if you'd like to mute the presentation in English, click on Mute Original Audio. All right, your facilitators today are Megan George, Assistant to the City Manager, and myself, Aquila Hurd-Ravitch, the Community Development Director. I'm going to be presenting, and Megan can help with technical questions. And we also have a few other staff who will help answer questions toward the end of the presentation. So a few more things to know about the webinar. Let's go over a few things. So first, if you have a question about how to use Zoom or having trouble, you can use the chat feature now. Once we start the chat, or excuse me, once we start the presentation, chat will be disabled, but you can email questions to Megan at mgeorge@tualatin.gov. The chat feature is at the bottom of the Zoom screen on a toolbar that looks like a thought bubble, and it has kind of a yellow-orange, or I put this yellow-orange rectangle around it just to call out what the chat feature looks like. Second, if you have a question or a comment about the code or the policy, you can use the Q&A feature, which is also located at the bottom of the Zoom screen on a toolbar that's highlighted here in purple. We will have time to answer a few questions, but if your question is not answered, please know we have captured the question and will compile with other questions and provide answers. These questions and answers will be made available on our website at tualatin.gov. And I've posted here the tiny URL. It will come up a couple more times in this presentation, but just for the sake of giving you a chance to write it down, it is tinyurl.com/YXUERP53. And we've tested it, it will take you to the page. If you'd like to follow this process, if you'd like to be kept up to date with code changes, please email Erin Engman, our Associate Planner, at EENGMAN@tualatin.gov, and you'll be added to an interested parties list. All right, so why are we here? The City Council is considering changes to the code that regulate marijuana businesses and wants to hear your opinion. So you can share your opinion of the proposed changes either using the Q&A feature here tonight, or you can email Erin. Please be assured that if you submit comments or questions here tonight, they will be captured. All right, and so how did we get here? So in 2014, marijuana was legalized by a vote of the people in Oregon. The state allows cities to put some regulations on marijuana businesses known as time, place, and manner regulations. Tualatin adopted such regulations in 2015. And what do our regulations say? Well, they say that marijuana business facilities are allowed in industrial zones. They must be 3,000 feet from other uses, such as schools, libraries, parks, and residential areas. And they must be 2,000 feet from other marijuana businesses. There are more regulations that can be found in the Development Code, Chapter 80. And what are the proposed changes? Well, the proposed changes are to allow marijuana facilities in industrial and commercial zones. Retail facilities could be allowed in commercial zones, but not the central commercial zone. And all other business types are allowed in industrial zones. The other business types are growing, processing, and wholesale facilities. The other change is to reduce buffers from other uses. The same uses, schools, libraries, parks, and residential areas. And the final change is to reduce the separation requirement to 1,000 feet, which would match state law. The state law right now is that businesses have to be 1,000 feet apart. There we go. So you might be wondering, what does that look like? Where can businesses locate now, and where might they be able to locate with the proposed changes? Okay, so this is a little silly, but I'd like you to picture a moose. And there he is. So here's a picture of a moose, and I'm going to call him Tuwali. And this is important, as you'll see in a minute. Okay, so if you've got this picture of the moose in your mind, that will be helpful. All right, let's keep going. And now you see why. This is a map of our city, and it looks a little like Tuwali, right? I'm going to add some context here. I apologize, I think this presentation is moving a little bit slower. So let's see if I can keep, oh, there we go. Okay, so for context, we've got I-5, Tualatin Sherwood Road, and Boonesbury Road. And just to give you a little bit more information, Safeway and Dick's are located here in the Antler. Legacy Hospital is located here in the Snout area. Horizon High School in green is located in the Neck. And Ancestry Brewing and Industry Restaurant are located here at the back of the head. The yellows and browns represent residential districts. Pinks and purples represent commercial districts, and blues represent industrial districts. Okay, this is a map that shows our current regulations. The red-lined area shows the 3,000-foot buffer from the library, parks, schools, and residential zones. The yellow line, which I will use my mouse to kind of highlight, the yellow line indicates where marijuana facilities are currently allowed. As you can see, they are allowed in the industrial areas. This blue color represents industrial zones. What this map doesn't show is the requirement for marijuana businesses of any type to be 2,000 feet apart. So based on today's regulations, marijuana businesses are allowed in the western portion of the city, generally in the area of Ancestry Brewing. Currently, we do not have any marijuana businesses. Okay. This map indicates where marijuana businesses could be allowed if the regulations are changed. You can see that a majority of the industrial area is available, and some commercial land in the Antler, which is here, across from Safeway and Dick's and in the area of Bridgeport Village. These areas are now in the yellow, which means marijuana facilities could be allowed. Again, the map doesn't show the requirement for marijuana businesses to be separated by 1,000 feet. So now I'm going to pause for a minute. I will ask Erin Inkman if questions have come in over the Q&A feature that we're able to answer tonight. And again, I just would like to repeat that a full list of question and answers will be compiled and listed on our website at this tiny URL. I listed the full URL in case you are interested. You can take that down. So Erin, I will turn it over to you for some question and answer.
Okay, thank you, Aquila. It looks like the questions received during the webinar, we have a handful. The first is, will the presentation be available online? And the answer is yes. We are currently recording this presentation and it will be posted to our website by end of day on Monday. And then we do have a second question, which is why can't we have, I believe it's supposed to have marijuana uses in the commercial area. I would appreciate being able to walk to a store versus having to drive and contribute to traffic. So with these proposed changes, we are looking to expand permitted areas into certain commercial districts. Again, we have buffer regulations, but if you look at the map that Aquila provided, some areas within the Northwest Antler area will be open in the commercial area. And we can share that map with everyone too as part of our webinar follow-up. And those are the only two questions that we've received during this webinar. I do have a handful of questions that we've received by email prior to the webinar, and I am working to compile answers to those questions, and we will post those responses to the website. I can go through and see if I have any answers compiled that I could share. Let me just take a quick look. One of our questions came from William, and it was, how can I open a marijuana store in Tualatin? And our response is, marijuana facilities such as the dispensary must meet the regulations of our Development Code Chapter 80. Changes are being considered to this chapter that would allow retail businesses to locate in both industrial and commercial zones, with the exception of the downtown core. We did receive a question from Kathleen, and it is, my question has to do with the reduction in distance from marijuana dispensaries to places like schools and parks, as well as between each other. Is this to get more in line with state guidelines? And the answer is, in some ways, yes. State law allows cities to place time, place, and manner regulations on marijuana businesses. The buffer reductions being considered will better align with the minimums required by state. And those minimums required by state are between marijuana businesses themselves and between marijuana businesses and schools, and that minimum distance is 1,000 feet. And then we also received another question from Kathleen. Why the limitation on the central commercial district? And our response is, the required minimum distance between marijuana businesses and libraries and parks by our code is being considered at 1,000 feet. And with the proposed buffer reduction to Tualatin Commons and the Tualatin Library, that would exclude much of the downtown core area. And I believe the rest of the questions we received will be followed up at the conclusion of this presentation posted online. I'll turn it back over to Aquila.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, we did receive a few additional questions via the chat.
I will capture those.
Megan, did you want to just make sure we saw those? Okay.
Yep, exactly.
We will capture those as well. Thank you. Thank you, Erin. And I would like to remind folks who are here tonight that you can also submit comments. It doesn't have to just be questions, but you can submit comments through the Q&A feature or a follow-up email to Erin. And her contact information has been listed here for you. Because we are also interested in getting your feedback about the proposed changes as well as answering questions. Okay, all right, so with our next steps, as Erin mentioned, the compiled comments, questions, and answers will be put together and posted to our website as well as a recording of this webinar. And then on September 28th at the City Council work session, we will present these comments to the City Council. That meeting is available to the public. You can listen in it's through a Zoom meeting. The link to those meetings are typically posted on the agenda, and the agendas are usually available 7 days ahead of time. So that was probably a lot that I just said. So if you're interested in hearing the City Council on September 28th, you can look for the council agenda. It will come out on September 21st and it will have the Zoom link in it. From there, if the council directs staff to proceed with changes to the development code, the planning staff will take an amendment to the Planning Commission for their consideration and a recommendation. And that Planning Commission meeting will happen on October 15th at 6:30 p.m. And it is also available via Zoom. And if you send your email to Erin, we'll make sure you're on the interested parties list and that you get notified of all these dates. And from there, a public hearing will take place on November 9th at the City Council's regular business meeting. And that is a public hearing that is open to comments that are in favor or not in favor of any proposed changes. And again, that is available via Zoom. And with that, let's see, there we go. With that, on behalf of the City Council and all the staff who are present here tonight, we thank you for taking time out of your day to participate in this webinar. So thanks so much for joining.